Hi everybody, I'm Rey Junco, and I am currently a faculty associate at the Berkman Center for Internet and Society, and I am starting one of my new positions at the Purdue Libraries as an associate professor of library science in just 2 weeks. So I'm here in Cambridge, then I'll be moving to Indiana, but I'll still be connected to Berkman. Here's my contact information. I conduct research on how youth use new media and how it affects their psychosocial development, their learning. I'm really interested, obviously, in issues of privacy. It's one of our major foci at the Youth and Media Lab, which I'm a part of at Berkman. And I currently have 2 research projects, one that I'm just wrapping up data collection on, and another one that I'm hoping to start this summer or maybe even this fall that are directly related to privacy. And one is a learning analytics project, which I've dubbed very lovingly my spyware project, where I've paid 300 students, 300 college students to let me monitor everything they're doing on their computers. And yes, the pilot was interesting. Some of the things I saw on the pilot, let's just say there are some things that can't be unseen. And I will have some interesting data about like the types of students who will allow me to monitor versus those who won't, because I have more, more data than just the monitoring data, and I'm going to be looking at personality types. I'm going to be looking at internet skills. But the goal of the study wasn't a privacy-related goal. The goal of the study is to look at predictive analytics and to be able to make some predictions about student success and their interactions with people on campus and their engagement and their learning based on trace data. So perhaps being able to say something like, students who use Microsoft Word for 3 hours a day and Facebook only 1 hour a day and Instagram only 30 minutes a day do a lot better than those who maybe use Facebook 10 hours a day and Microsoft Word only 1 hour a day. The other project, I'm really interested in issues of online identification and how that affects creativity. And so the other project is I'm working with a website now, a content creation website, to look at how online identification, so using real names, using a pseudonym, or being anonymous affects the creativity of content and the sharing of content produced by youth. I'm also, as I said, very interested in just the general privacy aspect. Linnette already talked about the FTC and what they're doing with COPPA. Some of you may already know that there was a report released. I think one of the things that got this party started was a report released in December by the FTC called Mobile Apps for Kids. And it wouldn't be a real presentation if I didn't include some data. So I just wanted to mention some of the key findings from there. They looked at a lot of apps from the iTunes Store and the Google Play Store. So about 500 apps from each. They basically used the keywords kids. And so these were apps that were made for kids. They found that 59% of apps transmitted the mobile device ID, which in many cases included the app name, the app version number, the developer, a timestamp, the operating system, and the device model. They also found that 3% of apps shared geolocation data, 1% shared a phone number, and 56% of these apps transmitted the information to a third party. Only 20% of the apps disclose information about their data collection practices. So only in 20% of these cases could parents even make an informed decision because there was no statement about what data these apps were collecting and what they were doing with it. So that tells us that 80% of the apps are in violation in both the letter and the spirit of COPPA, and I think that that's an important distinction that I'll talk about in a minute. So why is this important? Well, my background's in psychology and education. It's very important because, one, there's no consent. And not only is there no consent, but there's no ability to have informed consent. There's not enough information provided for a parent to make a decision about the apps that their kids will be using. Linnette already talked about building profiles of children. I think the behavioral profiling is such a supercharged thing. Adults don't even understand it. I mean, I'll go even farther than you did and say, like, we don't understand it. We don't know that, you know, I will sometimes tell friends who are very technologically minded, hey, you know you're being tracked this way, and that's why you're being pushed these ads. And they'll say, huh? You know, it's a very powerful form of marketing, and youth are very susceptible to that. I remember when I guess we're hippie parents, right? And so my son watched Plaza Sésamo, and he watched, a couple of other things in Spanish, but that's about it. And he goes to preschool, and he comes back talking about Spider-Man and Captain America, and wanting, like, a Spider-Man shirt and a Captain America shirt, and it's just surprising because we don't talk about that. We don't see those kinds of, I mean, we didn't even have a TV until after he was born, and the only reason was to, kind of show him some educational Spanish things. So his is not a unique case. It is a unique case in that he's generally pretty isolated from our end, from, like commercials and things like that, but it's really interesting to kind of see, someone going from that kind of environment to an environment where there's all this marketing. So just, kick that up a few notches, and we can see that children really don't have the developmental capacity to say, oh, this is an ad and I'm going to resist, right? And heck, we don't have the developmental capacity, right? It's like, ooh, I like those shoes.
Pharmaceutical companies.
Pharmaceutical companies, exactly. I mean, and doctors have, in my time, right? Like, people will come into the doctor and say, I want X. Not like the generic version, I want this drug. Oh, why is that? And children have less of an ability to resist this kind of marketing. One of the other important facets of this is that I talked about the geolocation data, I talked about the mobile app ID. There was a study that was just recently published, just a few weeks ago, by a researcher right here at MIT, where he found that all you need are 4 spatial temporal points to uniquely identify with 95% accuracy any person. That's it. Whether it be a Twitter post, a Foursquare check-in, a GPS location from a picture, all you need is 5. With 2 points, you can do it with 50% accuracy. So you don't even have to say, as the teenager said, I'm here and I'm home and I'm pointing to it. So, so this, of course, spurred the latest COPPA changes, and Linnette, I think, did a great job of talking about those, so I won't talk about those. What I'm really interested in, again, being the psychologist here, is the spirit of COPPA, that the industry groups responded to this report by saying, oh, but we didn't know, which to me is bullshit. Not that I agree that the developers didn't know, but I think it's incredibly problematic that the developers didn't know. And of course I know how these things work. It's not like it's, maybe sometimes one person, but often, you will contract out your work to other developers and things like that. But it's my belief that if you were developing apps for children, that you really need to be aware, and your team really needs to be aware of the spirit of why we even have COPPA, why we need to protect children. Not everybody needs to be a developmental psychologist, but some of these reasons, from the more psychosocial to the more safety-related things about being able to find a child and where they live and track them and monitor them, etc. So,
thank you. So.